Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, 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 welcome. This is the Air Hustling Podcast with your favorite hosts, James, Eric. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Ear Hustling Podcast. You got your boy James here. What's going on, Eric?
Not too much, sir. How's your day going?
Man, it's going really well. You know, I've been looking forward to this day, man. We got a lot of stuff going on and got a very serious topic here, and I'm ready to jump in. How about you?
You know what? Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, we want to welcome to the show 4 individuals that are here with us. We want to just go around the table a little bit here and let them introduce themselves. Alan, let's start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners, please, and viewers?
All right. What's up? My name is Dr. Alan Snyder. I have had COVID a couple months ago. I had it for 3 weeks. I live in New York City, New York. It wasn't too bad for me. My worst symptom, the first symptom, was the fever that came down. I knew it when I wasn't feeling well, and I woke up in the middle of the night, 102 fever, had that for a couple of days. Had the other stuff too, but that was the worst by far for me.
Wow. Okay. Jeremy, let's come to you.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Jeremy Weaver. I live in Winchester, Indiana. I am a firefighter EMT. I have not had COVID, luckily, but I have been around it quite a bit.
Okay.
I know several people with COVID or has had COVID.
Okay. Latoya, how about you?
Hello. Once again, my name is Latoya. I'm here in the Washington, D.C. area. I had COVID for about 4 weeks, and my first symptom was a headache.
Okay. And Greg.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Greg. I'm in New York as well. I had COVID. New York. I had COVID about 3 weeks from the start of symptoms to I was hospitalized. I had it pretty bad, hospitalized for about 10 days. And, you know, a lot longer for recovery. So about 3 weeks with the illness, but, you know, a lot longer to recover fully.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being on the show today. To the listeners and viewers at home, as you can see, what we're talking about today is COVID. We're talking about COVID-19. And 3 of the 4 individuals here have all experienced it. And we got Jeremy, who has come in contact with it as a first responder. So I'm very excited about today's call, very excited about learning a little bit more about what your individual experiences are, as well as hoping to educate both Eric and I, as well as listeners and viewers at home. So without further ado, Eric, why don't you kick us off?
All right, thank you very much. So as customary, since we have one lady on, we're going to start with Latoya. Latoya, I've got a question for you. So did you take COVID-19 seriously prior to you contracting it?
I would say no, I didn't. I was still out moving about. I did not take it as serious as I should have.
All right. And this is just a follow-up question. So you basically were just going around business as usual prior to COVID-19, doing like the shopping, you know, social interactions, things of that nature?
Well, it wasn't social interacting for me. I do inspections, and I'm a real estate broker, so I was still dealing with clients and going into homes, doing inspections, and so that kind of, without the mask and gloves and stuff like that. So that kind of.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, I'm glad that everybody on this panel, I'm glad that everybody survived it. So, you know, first of all, like I said again, as James alluded to, thank you. So thank you very much. So I'm going to go to Greg. What about you? Did you take COVID-19 seriously prior to you contracting it?
Yeah, I mean, when I started hearing about it, there was a lot of people saying, this is like another flu. It's not that serious, but I never had that attitude. I would say like from my last day of work till I got sick, I was basically home. Like I work in an office. I'm a paralegal at a law firm, and from my last day at the office, I was pretty much home. Trying to just precautions and stuff like that. I stepped out that I could remember maybe 2 times, and just to get stuff we needed for the house. And I think that's probably where I got it from. No protection or anything like that. So I mean, I wasn't being reckless and careless. It was just an unfortunate, I was in wrong place, wrong time, I guess. And but yeah, I took it serious from the beginning, I would say.
Okay, Jeremy, I'm going to go to another question. Do you believe that wearing a mask slows down the spread of COVID-19?
I absolutely do. I believe that wearing the mask, if you are symptomatic, prevents spreading the virus. I'm not sure of the percentages and how the statistics play out on that, but I do believe that it definitely helps. Being in the medical field, as an EMT, we have to wear masks and all kinds of protective gear, special clothing over our uniforms, always glove up, face shields. So I do believe that wearing masks does help.
You raised a very interesting point when you brought up the gloves. We see people with masks on all the time, but very rarely do we see people with gloves. Do you think maybe that has something to do with perhaps this second round going around, because now everybody's just going with the mask and no one's wearing any hand protection?
Again, I'm not a professional, but I even wear gloves going to Walmart. My wife is in end-stage kidney failure, so we take all the precautions we can here at our house. So, we wear gloves going to Walmart, shopping or going out and about, just to be certain. But not that this is factual, but I've heard and seen that casual contact is unlikely. You'd be unlikely to pick it up by casual contact.
Okay, so if you and I shook hands, for example, then that shouldn't pass it from one person to another?
From what I heard, it should not.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in real quick here. I just want to piggyback off this conversation. I think the important thing to understand, and anybody, please correct me if I'm wrong. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I've been married for almost 17 years. So I've been wrong quite often.
You were just wrong, man.
Exactly. We've been together 18 years. But anyway, since this is so new, right? It's a lot that's really not known about it on how it could be transmitted. So therefore, I think a lot of the precautions that are being suggested is just to be safe. Don't do these things. That's why people aren't shaking hands. It's not believed that it can be transmitted through handshaking, but let's just be safe and not do it.
Exactly.
And I think that's the main approach. Because everything I've read, that what we know for certain is mainly contracted through our noses, from what I understand. And that's why the people make a big deal out of wearing the face mask over the nose and not just under your nose. Am I wrong on anything that I understand? Please help me out.
No, I believe that's pretty accurate.
Okay, awesome.
Would face shields, how do face shields work? Because I've actually never really seen an actual face shield. So what version of a face shield are most people wearing? Because I'm wearing a mask.
There's all different styles of face shields. Basically we wear face shields for body fluid splatter, and that's just the same things we're wearing now. Do I think they provide much protection? If it's contracted through the nose, no, because particles go right up underneath the shield. So, mask is, again, a definite thing. But anything, a face shield, anything that you can help prevent is worth trying. Something, the old saying is, something is better than nothing.
Okay. You say, wear something. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Appreciate that. Alan, what do you think?
What do I think about what? Face shields?
Yeah, about wearing the face shield or mask, whether or not that slows down the spread of COVID-19.
Yeah, I actually very much do believe that, because it is a barrier of protection. And we don't know a lot about this. I personally don't wear gloves, but when it comes to wearing gloves, naturally people tend to touch their face a lot. Even nowadays you see it with the, people fixing the mask and whatnot, but you have to protect yourself. Definitely airborne, through the nose, through the mouth, any of those type of pathogens. When we were talking about like bodily fluids, Jeremy brought up, it's kind of like a sexual thing. I mean, the truth is you don't know where people have been. You don't know what they've been doing. And if the risk of contracting a disease, with this disease being COVID, is within 6 feet breathing, you would wear protection. I mean, you're not going to go out and sleep with people randomly 6 feet. If that's how it was, condom sales would be up, believe me, and it's the truth. You really have to protect yourself from this stuff, and you have to take it seriously. And we're getting there now. I live in New York City, and we still see tons of people not wearing masks. It's crazy. I've almost seen fights on the street because people in New York City are not afraid to say their mind and, hey, buddy, you're not wearing a face mask. And then it turns into F you, and they've almost gone to blows. I've seen it. It was kind of entertaining. But we're still not I don't even know what percentage people are wearing masks, but it's not 100. It's probably not even in the 90s, 80s, 70s.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. Next question that I have. You know what, Alan, we'll just stay with you. You're from New York. Do you feel that the stay-at-home order has been effective?
I've been in New York now a long time. Do I think it's been effective? New York City is doing much better, but people nowadays are getting tired of it. Like, I don't know if you can see my suntan, my sunburn. I was at the beach this weekend. It's booming. People are out. I mean, people are tired of the stay-at-home order. And unless you're arresting them or ticketing them, people are going to go out. And I live near Central Park. It is packed every day, on weekends double. People are not staying at home. Maybe it helped here in New York City because we got hit here the most at first, but things are better here until they're not. So I think it was good at first, but unless you really put some strict orders in place, people aren't going to listen.
If I may respond to some of that as well, I live in a much smaller community, a much, much smaller community. And the stay-at-home order has done tremendous things here. We, in this county that I live in, we only breached 4 cases. So I believe that stay-at-home order did help. But we don't have beaches. We don't have amusement parks right here anywhere near. So I believe that it helped in the smaller communities. And in my community, in my area, we have the Amish people. And the Amish people absolutely refuse to wear any type of protection. But we have not seen any cases in the Amish community around here because they obeyed the stay-at-home order as well. They didn't go to their churches, and I don't know if you all are familiar with the Amish, but they hold churches at a home of one of the church members. So everybody in the church will go to that home and congregate, sit beside each other, have dinner and meals. So when the stay-at-home order did hit, their bishops respected that order. They stayed home, and we've not seen any cases in the Amish community.
All right. Thank you very much for that. And that's pretty much it as far as the questions that I have. So James, I believe the next set of questions, sir, belong to you.
Yep. Greg, we're going to start with you. Do you feel as though the U.S. has had proper response to this pandemic?
The U.S. in general? Oh, man.
Yeah, we're going big. We're going to start big first.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that this thing is so, like, it's so new, and there's not a lot of people don't know what to do. So I mean, I think shutting down international travel right off the jump would have been like a good first move, like between, people that were traveling in and out of like China and stuff like that. Just in general, just to like at least maybe stop it there from the beginning, because I think the fact that people were still allowed to fly in and out, like right after this thing happened, was a big, like, like it should have been done sooner, because I feel like that allowed a lot of this to come here sooner. Than I feel like maybe they would have stopped travel sooner. They could have maybe closed this off a little bit sooner. I mean, it would have made its way here eventually. I guess you can't really stop it, but I feel like people were a little lax in the beginning. I think it was a little too late when people started, trying to close off things and travel and all that stuff.
Okay. Alan, how about you? What do you think?
I think we've done an okay job, but we don't even know when this disease really came here. I mean, the president is taking a lot of heat right now, and love him or hate him, we're all kind of on the consensus that it was a March thing, maybe a February thing, but I know people that are telling me that maybe they got it last year even. And I unfortunately lost a younger cousin. She had a bad immunity disease anyways, but she unfortunately passed away back in January. And since talking to some of my family, we're like, do you think that Ashley maybe had COVID? And they're thinking like, yeah, they might have, because she had a lung issue. She was already a weakened immune system. So I don't think things have been great here, and it would have been better if we would have taken a hard stance. I really, really do, but we still don't know, because I have people that I speak to that have tested positive for antibodies and haven't had a single illness since October. So maybe it started then. Kind of like what Greg was saying, we don't know. It probably would have happened anyway, and you have people coming in and out, and it would have been very, very hard. It's probably inevitable unless we just isolate ourselves. And U.S. is not the country to just lock all borders every which way. We would never be able to do that. Like some of these random, like I hear New Zealand had it, they were done with it, great. New Zealand is so secluded, they don't have to worry about people literally walking or driving into their country. So it probably would have happened anyways, is what I'm going to say.
All right. Let's see here. Latoya, let's come to you. You're there in the nation's capital, so this would be only fitting for you to start us off on. Do you feel the president and the vice president is providing proper leadership? Do you feel they're good role models right now during this pandemic? You're on mute, Latoya.
I would say no. And I don't have a problem with Donald Trump, by the way. I don't dislike him at all, but I think that they should have made a decision to shut down, period, across all states, and then deal with it, and maybe it would have been controlled a little better, because I know here we're still seeing a high amount of cases by the day that people are testing positive. So I don't think that they did a very good job. Not even the governors down to the mayors. No.
Okay. I'm going to touch on that, but before I do, Jeremy, let's hear what you have to say. Do you think the president and vice president providing proper leadership?
I believe that they provided as much as they could with the information they had at the time. I question myself one day and reiterate myself the next. It's half a dozen one, six a dozen the other. I feel that there were things that probably could have been done better and quicker, but then I feel there are other things that they acted promptly on. we're a big country. We have a lot of people. And for a small group of people to act and utilize the processes they had, I think they done a pretty good job. Could it have been better? Perhaps. But it could have went way worse.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to add my 2 cents in. I won't necessarily answer the question, but I think in what I'm going to say may give an answer on my opinion as well. And Eric, I would love to hear what you have to say on this also. I don't believe that the president really took it serious in the beginning. And we can go back to many of the comments that was made. One of the first comments I recall him making is that this is a Democratic hoax. So I don't think he really took it serious. He's never really supported wearing a mask until today, and we're talking about July 27th. So as far as role models, I don't believe that they've been great role models at all, just personally. So yeah, I did answer the question, as a matter of fact. And I just find it interesting. I'm here in Atlanta, and our mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, put in an order for everyone in the city limits to wear a face mask. It's mandatory. But our governor said you don't have the authority to do that, and he wrote an executive order overruling that. So I really wonder what are we trying to do here? And our leadership, everyone is responsible for their own lives. I get that, and I understand that, and I'm totally supportive of that. I shouldn't have to have someone tell me that you have to wear a mask. I don't like the idea of that. I really don't. But when people aren't being responsible and so many lives are being lost, I think it's time where someone has to intervene. Heck, someone had to say that it's illegal to drink and drive, right? That's not saving lives. So the new law did, whenever that came into effect. So just curious on what you guys think on that. Greg, let's start with you.
And I just feel like a lot of the people that have the biggest problems with the whole mask wearing, like making that mandatory is people that haven't experienced COVID personally. I mean, you hear about it all the time. You hear about cases. You hear about this one died, that one died, young, old, doesn't matter. But until you've experienced it yourself and been as sick as I was personally, I don't think you're going to truly understand the magnitude of, like, this thing is serious and this thing will kill you. Like, whatever your take is, whatever, like, I have friends who like, oh, there's an agenda and this and that. I don't go into the politic part of it. Like, that's not where I'm at, with it. I just know it's real. I don't know how it got here. There's all these conspiracies and I tell my friends all the time, listen, I don't know if they flew a plane over us and sprinkled this disease on us. All I know is that this thing is real. Okay. And like, and people react differently to it. I think that's why there's so many like people that just kind of brush it off. Right. Like, and I kind of understand in a way, because if somebody told me wear a mask or you're going to get the flu, right? We've all had the flu. It sucks. But I mean, 3-4 days later, you're fine, right? But if somebody told you, like, wear a mask or you're going to die, I think people would take it a little bit more serious. And because I was on a worse part of it, I take it serious. And I think that, again, I know many people who had it and had, very mild symptoms, and it was like a flu. 3 days later, they were fine, back to work and everything. I was out of commission for almost 2 months, just having a disease and then being home on an oxygen machine for about a month and a half before I could do anything. I couldn't even leave my house, So I know that it can be bad. So that's why I just feel like if you haven't experienced it, like, personally and been really sick, you're not going to understand. And it's probably like one of those things that you can brush off and shrug your shoulders at. I'm like, hey, we'll get over it. But I mean, yeah. I was close. So I have my opinion is very different,
Yeah. Thanks for that, Greg.
Sure.
All right, Eric, you got it, man. Next question from you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. I think we probably had enough talk in terms of, I guess, like the political end. This next question is political, but it's not political. Do you think that the local government should have more say-so in how the area should be governed? versus the federal government? Just like a simple yes or no from everybody. We'll start with Alan, please.
I do believe that. I think that the local government is very important because they know the issues specific to the region. Being in New York City, I know Florida is doing terribly right now, but New York City is still winning the race as far as how bad things were. We're still in the first place. If we could have handled things differently, yes, I do think the local government should have different say.
All right, thank you. Jeremy?
Absolutely. Again, I agree with Alan. I think local government should have complete say because, again, they know their region, they know their populace, they know their industries. So, yes, they should have complete and total control of their community.
All right, thank you. LaTanya, we're going to get your opinion, and then we're going to go to Greg.
LaToya, yes.
LaToya, I'm sorry. That's the second time I didn't get it. LaToya.
But I agree. I agree with both Jeremy and Alan. The local government should have to say so. Like I know here in Maryland, our governor was able to get the testing and the PPE equipment way before the federal government was able to get it here. So I absolutely agree with the both of them.
Okay. And Greg?
I'll keep it short. I agree. I think they should, local government should have, say more so than, federal as far as like within your own, your own towns and cities and stuff like that.
All right, very good. This next question that I have is in regards to schooling. So right now, a lot of areas are undecided about whether they're going to do traditional schooling or whether they're going to do online or a combination of both. LaToya, my goodness, what is my deal
That's
today?
my name, LaToya. It's LaToya.
Okay. I thought I messed it up again. I don't know what my problem is today. I'm sorry. LaToya, what is your opinion on that? Should we start the semester with the children online, or should they go to school?
Absolutely, they should start virtually. Whether they did it or not, my child is 14. He wasn't going back to school, period. I was going to either pull him out and do homeschool or something of that, but I definitely think that they should do virtual. But I also know that there's a real concern with parents that still have to go to work. So you have that concern as well with the kids being home or maybe too small to be home and do virtual classes, and the parents still have to go to work. So
okay, thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I agree. I think I mean, as far as it's a tough one, man. I have two kids. I have an 11-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we were actually before this craziness happened, we were in the process of starting to look for schools, preschools for my little one, and that's definitely been put on hold. And we had a babysitter who now we're still like on the fence about having her, watch my kid. We've been fortunate enough that my wife's been able to work from home full time, and I'm currently not at my office, but I'm still, I'm good. I'm still working. And they're not talking about possibly getting us back to work until September. So, which is, when we should have some idea what's going to go on with school. But we're afraid, man, to be honest, we're afraid. My whole family got it. I was the worst, thank God. But, again, it's just, there's just so much unknown right now that, like, I wouldn't want to risk sending my kids to school so early on. I still think that, no one's prepared. They're not prepared.
Yeah, definitely. As a parent, I definitely share those concerns too. Alan, how do you feel about the school situation, virtual or traditional way?
I think a hybrid might be good right now, just because from what I understand, the virtual training, the virtual schooling, it's not working that great. And we could try to do virtual maybe for a little bit and see how that goes, but I don't know if kids are going to get the proper education that they need. I mean, listen, this is impossible to fix anyways, but I think we should try virtual for a little bit and see where we're going with this, but eventually maybe trying to do something and kind of getting back to what you said last time on a state-by-state, case-by-case basis. In the areas that are doing better, maybe kids can start to slowly integrate into schools and see how that goes. I don't have children. I have niece and nephew. I love them to death, and I would never want anything to happen to them. But it might be worth trying something like that, just because it's not affecting younger people as much. But of course, you have to be extra careful. It depends on how the hospitals in the areas are doing, because we're not trying to get rid of everything. That's just not going to happen. It's all about slowing things down. So if we could handle it more by a state-by-state, case-by-case basis, that might be a better way of doing it. But it just has to be a lot quicker reaction too. If you're going to be on that system, then when things quickly go poorly, which hopefully they wouldn't, you got to lock it down. You got to immediately make a decision and not take 4 months or something like that. I actually didn't even know today that the president did start wearing a mask. That was news to me. I double checked it. Very interesting. I just saw the picture. It blew my mind 4 months later. But anyway.
Well, hey, it's progress.
4 months later, it's progress. It's something. It's something. Yeah.
Okay, Jeremy, your thoughts, please.
Well, I'm a father of 7. I have them from 26 on down to 5 years old. So I have a lot of concerns. We all know that schools are a cesspool of snotty noses and diseases anyway. And again, I have a wife who's in end-stage kidney failure. My mother also lives with me. We take care of my elderly mother who has COPD. So if that was brought home to my home, I would lose my wife and my mother. Probably. The chances are much higher. So I'm not going to risk sending my children to school. We're working on a system right now to make sure that they get homeschooled, use the virtual systems as well. My wife doesn't work, again, end-stage kidney failure, so she's here. My mother's here, so there's always somebody here that can assist them. So I would be very cautious sending kids back to school. New York, bigger cities than mine, I would have concerns. I have concerns with these smaller towns, let alone what you guys go through.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Greg, I have a question for you, sir. So your mic's mute.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
I just had a couple of questions for you. I know that you spent quite a bit of time away from your family during COVID-19. How difficult was that separation for you?
Oh man, it was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. It was rough because my first symptom was a fever. So right off the bat, because it was so random, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't just a flu, or I knew this was it. And the fact that I had a fever for a whole entire week before I even got tested, I was even more positive that I had COVID. And that whole week before I even got tested, I barely saw my kids because I was staying away from everybody. But again, it's hard. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. It's 4 of us, myself, my wife, and my 2 kids. So how much separation can you really do, right? So it was difficult, man. And the day I got taken to the hospital, and as I got progressively worse at the hospital, I thought I'd never see my kids again. And that was the biggest fear in my life. That was the worst, thing I could think of, was like my wife having explained to my kids that daddy wasn't coming home. So thankfully, I made it through, and I'm here with them now. But that was scary, man. And I mean, again, it's just an experience that I'll never forget. And again, I'm glad to be home, and my kids, I'm sure, glad to have daddy home. But it was rough. It was rough for sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. That's pretty powerful. Thank you for sharing that story. I know that it wasn't easy. Just spending a couple of days away from my kids, it's torture for me. But then you're battling and not really knowing whether or not you're actually going to come out of it is something else. But I know that they were definitely all over you when you did pull through.
When I was finally able to give my kids a hug, man, it just was like the greatest thing ever, But yeah, it was scary for a bit there, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Real quick,
Yeah.
excuse me, Eric. Another question, Greg.
Sure.
When you even got out of the hospital, were you able to be around your family then, or did you still have to be quarantined away from them?
I didn't quarantine myself. I came home 30 pounds lighter and no. I couldn't even move around, to be honest with you. I was on a walker and had to be sitting down to shower. So I wasn't really at full capacity yet. So I mean, I was able to see them up close, and but I kind of stayed away just because it had been so. But by that time, I didn't have a fever anymore. I never got tested again, so I don't know if I was positive or not after that. But or for how much longer. But yeah, I didn't fully stay away. I just stayed away just enough to not really, expose them to anything. Hopefully, I mean they had already went through it themselves, so I was hopeful that they already went through it and I wouldn't get them sick again.
Right. Wow.
When I came from the hospital, I did have to quarantine for 14 days.
After you came home from the hospital?
I did have to quarantine for 14 days. I had also lost about 15 pounds myself. So, and I still battle. I think there's lasting effects. It's still hard for me to breathe. So.
Yeah.
So how long total, Latoya, were you away from your family?
I was gone for a week.
And then the 14 days after?
Well, the 14 days I quarantined in my home. Once I was released, I was able to quarantine in my home.
Oh, okay, so you were able to be around your family at that time. Just got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. So, well, I'm sorry, James. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was done. Yep.
All right. Thank you. So right now, nobody currently knows the long-term effects of COVID-19. And Ms. Cheeks, you pretty much alluded to there's lingering effects as far as like the breathing aspect. Aside from the physical stuff, has anybody modified the way that they socialize? And then I'll give some examples. Do you allow people to come to your home? Do people have to come in and wear like another set of clothes when they first enter your home? Does anybody modify their behavior that way? We'll start with you, Ms. Cheeks.
I am cautious now. I take it very serious now because, like Greg said, it is awful. Like I had gotten, like he said, I was not as bad as Greg, but I could not breathe. And another thing, I think because of worryation, it made me get worse. So I just don't play around now. No, you can't come to my house, and I'm not going out to too many places unless it's something that I have to necessarily do.
Okay. Alan, what about you?
So in New York City, there's no going to people's homes. Like, I mean, the question is a good question, but like anytime you go anywhere, it's like, we'll meet outside. We'll do this. I've gone to see friends and we have our little picnics and it's like, I got to go to the bathroom. It's like, can you go in the bush or something? Cause no people there right now, there is none of that. There's no hanging out of people's homes right now. So I don't even think we've had the chance to really modify that. But like, even when I'm working, I make sure you're cleaning your hands before you come and go. People have, somebody asked me recently, well, when do you put your mask on? I said the second before I open the door to leave, and it stays on pretty much until I'm sitting at a table eating, or I'm sitting away from people, or till I'm back at the end of the day. I mean, there's just I'm not even at that stage. I can't wait till I'm at the stage that I can yell at my friends to wash your hands, do this, do that, but we're not there yet.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So I am done in terms of the questions that I'm going to ask for the time being. James, I am turning the floor over to you, sir.
Sounds good. Lane, few questions for you here. Approximately how many COVID cases have you encountered that you're aware of? Too many to count?
I would say right around a dozen.
Dozen, okay.
Give or take, yeah. I mean, I've not kept actual count, but I would say right around a dozen.
Have you come in contact with, and this question is going to be for anyone if the answer is yes, have you come in contact with anyone or knowledge of anyone that contracted COVID twice?
No, I have not.
So everyone's no, okay, all right. I'm beginning to see that in the news now where some people have gotten it a second time. Matter of fact, there's a Facebook group I'm a part of as well. Someone just mentioned that they've tested positive again. So, yeah, okay. Lane, what's the most difficult thing you've seen in the field working as a first responder in regards to
Actually,
COVID?
it all has to do with family. I mean, everybody's so concerned about not being able to see their family and not seeing their family again. And I'm sure Alan, Dr. Snyder, is very familiar with this, that in the medical field, when there's a serious injury, serious illness, or even a terminal illness, you know, the fear of dying is there. And it's all with family, not being able to see their family, not being able to really communicate with family. That's the hardest thing that patients have went through. Even the disease itself, it's very difficult because they ask you questions that sometimes you can't answer, and it's very difficult.
I'm not that old, but you know, it's in my lifetime. Whenever someone has to go to the hospital for anything, they've always been able to have a loved one next to them. And this is one of the first times, actually the first time for me, that I wasn't able to be there for my wife. She had a issue she had to go to the hospital for, and I was stopped at the door. You know, I'm not the patient, so I can't go in. You know, so I can't imagine Alan, Greg, Latoya, you know, and listeners out there, you know, being ill, not knowing exactly what's going on, and not being able to have that support from your loved ones. So I can't imagine that. Greg, what was the most difficult symptom you had to deal with?
The breathing, man. That started when I was in the hospital. Prior to me going to the hospital, like I said, I had a fever for about a week. So, you know, that sucked in general because fevers suck, right? Like, you're weak, you can't do anything. I had no appetite to eat anything, drink anything. So on top of that, I had no energy. I was weak. Everything made me nauseous. So right off the bat, I was just super dehydrated. I had 2 instances prior to me going to the hospital where I almost blacked out. And one occasion I did. Thankfully, my son was there to basically keep me from falling. Because I went blank, you know. And
How old is your son?
my son's 11, my oldest. I have 2, my 11-year-old. So it was actually the day we all got tested. We drove to a testing location and got tested. And my wife dropped me and my oldest son off in front of my building. Because she knew I was already sick and didn't want to make me walk from the parking spot and everything. So she dropped us off, and it was a little warm that day. And I was sitting outside with my son, and I had a mask on, and I was just feeling out of it. I was tired and didn't feel good, and so I told my son, "Let's get inside so I can get this mask off." And I live on a 3rd floor, walk up, and by the time I got upstairs, I was completely out of it. I couldn't. That's actually when I went. My son said my eyes rolled back and he thought I was kidding for a second until I started falling forward and he like caught me, like, and held me up against the door. So, and after going into the hospital, I was put on oxygen right away. So I think that was all part of the whole oxygen. But prior to that, like, you don't know about this. You know, who goes around testing their oxygen every day? Like, nobody. That's not something we do, you know. And when I got into the hospital and they tested, they were like, "We're gonna put you on oxygen. Your oxygen level is a little low," and I just got progressively worse within the next couple of days. I never got vented, thank God, but I was close. If my oxygen levels didn't improve, that was my next step, was getting put on a ventilator, and thankfully I bounced back from that. But that was the hardest. I mean, from my bed to the bathroom was probably about 10 feet. And just for me walking from my bed to the bathroom, I was completely out of breath. I could not breathe. I could not catch my breath. I was just hyperventilating. Like,
Wow.
Just couldn't. It was just impossible. So that was definitely the scariest and most difficult part of the whole thing.
Do you know what your oxygen levels were down to?
I was in the upper 80s.
And Jeremy, help us. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I think they say a normal everyday healthy person goes between like 95 and 100. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's
That's
where
right,
we're at.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeremy now
Um,
confirmed. Okay.
yeah, so I was like 88, 89, I think at my lowest, which I think it's pretty bad. Um, and yeah, so yeah, that was tough. That was scary. And considering, I mean, overall, like I didn't have any issues. Um, that I got that sick so fast. It was scary.
Latoya, how about you? What was the worst symptom you had?
The same thing. It was the breathing, and that was around like 85%, and I couldn't go home until it got up to like 95 or better.
Okay. And Alan, same question.
So I don't. Maybe I didn't make myself so clear. I wasn't hospitalized, so for me, I was lucky. I'm young. I'm healthy. I run. I didn't have any breathing issues, thank God. So I had terrible fever for like 2 days, and then I was tired for like a week or so. But the thing that lingered the most was that annoying dry cough. So it's one of those things where like I was really, really sick for 2 days, and that was the worst. But I really remember more just like that constant dry cough. Anytime you eat, anytime you laugh, anytime you talk, that was like a good 3 to 4 weeks for me. So that was probably what I remember more, just because when I was really, really sick, those first couple of days, I just slept. I just Tylenol, water, sleep, Tylenol, water, sleep for 2 days.
Okay. All right. I remember when COVID first started getting really big here stateside. I saw a video of a gentleman on CNN, and he said breathing for him was felt like he had glass in his lungs. Latoya and Greg, with the breathing issues you have, would you guys kind of agree with that? Would you describe it a different way? Latoya, let's start with you.
No, I didn't feel like I had glass in my lungs, but I was hyperventilating pretty bad. I couldn't catch my breath. It was almost like I was giving labor, and you know how you do the breathing exercises to try and breathe. That's how it was. And oddly enough, if I were to just walk up my steps, I still have the same issue. So that's why I say it's still lingering.
Lingering, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. For me, I didn't experience any of that like glass feeling either. To be honest with you, like I said, it wasn't until I got into the hospital that it was an issue. I didn't know. I didn't feel anything because I wasn't really moving. I was in bed for like I said, a whole week because I had my fever was so high and I was just weak off of that. So the issue with the breathing didn't come to me until I had to move. So literally like getting up to go to the bathroom while I was in the hospital was tough because that's when it would get more aggravated and I would feel it. But as far as it hurting or feeling that kind of pain, that was never a symptom I experienced.
Okay. All right. So I'm actually down to my last question. We got a few minutes here, so we have enough time to go around the horn and get everyone's input on this in final words. What would you like to say to those who don't take COVID serious? Latoya, let's start with you.
The only thing I can say is just to take it more seriously. It's very real. I don't care how many conspiracy theories they put out here. It's very real. It's serious, and it got serious for me. And just know that you don't have to have any underlying issues because I have a clean bill of health. I don't have any health issues, and I still got it, and it still got worse for me. So just take it seriously and don't underestimate the virus because you don't have to have any underlying issues, and just try to build your immune system so that if you do catch it, you know, it won't be as bad maybe.
Okay. Thank you for that, Latoya. Alan, how about you? What words would you share?
So to piggyback on Latoya, Miss Cheeks, as he calls her, I think to build your immune system as well as your cardiovascular system. You know, my expertise is in the area of exercise. You have to have strong lungs. So getting that up, it's almost like preparation just in case. That's what I was doing, and maybe that worked or not, but I made sure that I was working out and running. I think that's very important. to the people that don't take this seriously, I can't give you some sad sob story. But I like to compare this to kind of like drunk driving. You know, it's okay if you don't care about you, but you need to think of the person in the other car. You need to think that if you want to go out and do what you want to do, that's fine. But if you got somebody else sick, somebody you care about, somebody that you love, and they got it, how bad would you feel? So whether you believe this is real, it's kind of like people who don't believe in God. I say, so if God forbid something happened to a loved one, would you pray? They go, yeah. I said, well, so you believe in God? They go, no, but just in case. So you really should take this seriously just in case, and think of it not for yourself, but think of it for somebody you really, really care about. Because, you know, the same way that Lane was talking about the two people in his family, if he got either one of them sick, he'd feel horrible. And you don't ever want that on your mind, on your conscience, because it's not what you do to yourself. It's what you do to somebody you care about.
Alan, you set a mouthful there. I really appreciate that. No, in a good way.
Okay.
Yeah, in a good way. You know, just real quick, you know, we have so many Christian thinking people in our world, I'll say. And what does Jesus say? The greatest command is to love your neighbor. You know, so if you're not doing it for yourself, like you said, do it for your loved ones, do it for others. So you said a lot. I appreciate that. Jeremy, how about you? What words would you have for people?
Well, there's nothing I could really say that Latoya or Alan hasn't already said. I mean, this needs to be taken serious. It's real. It's real. People are dying every day. They're dying, and again, if you don't care for yourself, you need to care for others. You need to wear the mask. You need to wear the protective PPE if that's what you have to do. Social distance. They put these rules out there for a reason. It's not an educated guess. It's scientifically they've figured this much out. So you need to take it serious. There's nothing more that can be said, but this is real and people are dying.
And Greg, last words.
Same thing, man. 100%. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for the others. You know, don't be selfish. This is real. I've experienced it. I had it pretty bad, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So, if you don't care about yourself, or you're like, you know, whatever, if I get it, you know, I'll be all right. Do it for the others that may not be all right. You know. Unfortunately, I have a neighbor. I had an old elderly neighbor that lived downstairs from me who actually went into the hospital a couple hours after I went in. They came and got her from her apartment, and unfortunately, she passed away a few days later from it. So there's just been a lot of extremes. Like I said, some people get it, have very mild symptoms, like Alan. You know, he was sick for 2 days and it sucked, and then he was back feeling a little better, and then there was me who, you know, 10 days in the hospital, and then there's people that are dying from it. So you don't know how it's going to affect you. So wear your mask, you know, follow the it's not that difficult, you know, wear a mask when you're around people, or stay home. I mean, that's pretty much like, you know, what you can do. And again, you know, it's real, and do what you got to do to save yourself and others.
If I may add real quick, I still go visit my friends. We go outside. We have a bonfire, campfire. We practice social distancing, and we wear masks. So it's not like you have to avoid people completely, but just take the precautions.
Right. You know, I really don't know what it's going to take for people to understand it's real. You know, one of the reasons why Eric and I wanted to have the show was to have real people talk. You know, you guys aren't paid actors. You know, you may have stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, but this is real life, right? And we wanted people to hear it from you guys. Just before we went on, I took a look at some numbers. In the U.S. right now, there's 3.8 million cases, confirmed cases that we know of, and 140,000 deaths. It's real. You know, worldwide, 608,000 deaths. 14.6 million confirmed cases. And I'm emphasizing confirmed cases because, as Alan said earlier, you know, what about the people who were sick before COVID was a thing? You know, what about those people? You know, my wife, firsthand knowledge, she was sick and she had some symptoms that really seemed like it may have been COVID, and we really wonder. You know, but we didn't have that floating around. We weren't talking about it in December, January here stateside. You know, so it's real. You know, it really is. And people say all the time, well, people die from the flu and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? Let's talk about this, right? So we really appreciate you guys being on. Eric, before we sign off, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming on, and this definitely is real. Just to answer one of my own questions, I didn't take COVID as seriously as I probably should have until I thought back in late January, early February that I was sick for about 10 days. So, you know what, if we don't take this seriously, well, we're going to take it seriously one way or the other. So it's either going to get better by us exercising all of the different precautions that we said, or it's going to get worse if we don't. So it's pretty much all I have to say. Again, thank everybody for coming on. And James, if you wouldn't mind taking us out.
Yeah, well, normally at this point, I say you heard it from our mouths to your ears, but nah, this time you heard it from their mouths to your ears. So please, America, take it serious, take precautions, take care of yourself, take care of your neighbors, do the right thing, and be safe. Eric?
Stay safe, America.